Invest like a pro? No.
Man, you are planning to sell your property, however, you just want to know that what are the elements that you should actually be looking at before you actually put that price on the market.
As a property investor, we're always thinking about profit. Nobody's going into property investing only to make a loss. So when it comes to selling your property, we're always thinking about how can I get the most of the property that I have? Because at the end of the day, as I did say, that we are looking for the capital gains. So this is one of the things whereby it doesn't only apply in property. However, it does also apply in other businesses, because I remember when it came to selling the car level, we had to sell a car, and then the question was, if I buy 4 new wheels, will this increase the price of the car? That's a question that I'm asking to you right now. Is that is the same rule that also applies in property. So what am I saying by saying that? Is that sometimes you might buy paint and repaint the whole house, think that it is going to add value. However, when the market is actually coming, once you've listed it on Property 24 and the market is actually coming and opening up to your listing, only to find out that people are not willing to buy it at that price. So you really need to understand that what does really push up the value of your property and what might not push up the value of your property. So I'm not saying that we should not paint our properties. I'm saying that we should be aware of what really pushes the value of the property up.
Yes, now I was about to say that this is actually a catch-22, that what do you actually do in this particular situation? You have a car or you have a house that you're trying to sell. However, Nell is telling you that painting the house won't actually increase the value of the property. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that you don't have to paint the house? This is where you would actually then be in competition with other people in that area, because we know that as property investors, our main selling point is that our property looks better than the others because it's actually painted. Right? But now the problem is, if you don't paint this property, the property then looks like the other properties. So now what would then be your selling point? Even though your property actually won't increase in value if you're actually painting the property. However, not painting the property would actually chase away the people that might want to actually purchase that property. So make sure that your property is always in neat condition. I remember when we were about to sell the property and we started painting the roof, right? According to this lady, it wasn't painted to standard, right? So the lady was like, you know what guys, I'm going to actually put in a new roof, because if I do put in a new roof, this basically means that the property value is going to increase. However, we need to understand that there's always a cap in the market. So if you're saying that you're going to be redoing the whole roof, how much is that going to cost you? Then if it does cost you above what is actually expected in that market, then you already know that you're playing a losing battle. So it's all about understanding that what is the cap of that particular area, and also understanding that how do we actually maximize on how much we're actually getting from this property.
I mean, this point, the reason why we spoke about this as point number 1 is that it's very interesting, because now when it comes to property investing, my capital injection does not necessarily mean that I'm going to get that plus profit. So what am I saying when I'm saying that? That tile that you were looking at, you know that it's the best tile, and you thought that, okay, to install this tile within my house, I'm going to spend 50,000 on the tiles alone. Let's just say labor was about 10,000. So you're all in, we're just looking at the tiles, you're all in at 60,000. So let's just say now that you would want a profit of 40,000 for that upgrade, right? So ultimately what we're saying then is that from the price that you initially had, you'd want to put in an extra 100,000. So how does that work when it comes to the market, especially looking at you as the buyer? So from my side, I had a property, I just put in new tile, I paid the guys for that, and now I'm adding an extra 100,000. How would you feel as the buyer, or as a buyer, how do you go into the market looking at this property with new tiling?
I mean, it varies from one person, from one individual to the next, right? So as a property investor, I know that if you put in new tiles, man, it's still going to be the price that I'm actually going to be offering you. But now if I'm coming in as a normal buyer or a home buyer, what I'm really looking for is that, does this property actually match my personality? So now, if the property doesn't actually match my personality, chances are I'm going to pull out from this property. So some people like really light tiles, right? It makes apparently it makes the room more lighter. However, if you know how to play with your colors, you know that if you're doing dark tiles, you need to do bright walls, right? In that way, you know that you may actually appeal to a lot more people. So now, as a property investor, I know that going into a property, I need to actually look at what needs to be fixed first. Once I understand what needs to be fixed, I then know how to actually maneuver around this whole thing. Do I put new tiles or do I not put in new tiles?
100%, man. I like what you said there in conclusion. I like what you said that the main point that I got from you is that it's preference at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So as much as it's an investment, I need to be careful that is it an investment or is it preference when it comes to upgrading? Because sometimes you might have done an addition whereby you just dealt with the preference side, or you dealt with something that's more personalized instead of increasing value. So we really need to understand that when we do upgrades, is this really going to push up the price, or was it more of preference?
Exactly. So the second point that I'd actually like to speak about is that who are you selling the property to? So now this question is really deep, right? Because now we need to understand that if I'm actually going to be renovating this property, who would be the person that will actually want to buy this property? So now knowing that element actually brings in a certain expectation from the person that's going to be purchasing the property. So if I'm going to be renovating the property in a really posh suburb, the way I would actually renovate a property that's in a basic suburb, now it's going to really be tough for me to actually sell that property. Reason being is that if I'm actually looking at properties that are selling at 6 million going up, they have a certain expectation of how the property should actually look. So now if I'm going to say that I'm going to be renovating a property that's worth 6 million and I'm going to be putting in fittings that are around 1 million to 800,000, already looking at that particular thing, I'm playing a losing battle. So now where does this element become important? If you're actually going to be purchasing a property, you need to go first, look at what's actually selling around that area. Go into Property 24, private property, check what kind of properties are in this area, number one. Check what fittings do they have in those properties. Now, if their fittings are really good, you need to make sure that you need to match the standard. And where does that come in again? In terms of price, it goes back to how much you offered. So now if you offered an amount that is really high, and now you are coming in and putting in fittings that will actually push up the price again, remember the cap that we spoke about earlier on. It always is a cap. So whenever you're going to be renovating a property or trying to sell a property, know who you're selling to so that you can adjust everything according to that person.
Yeah. So there was a case whereby who you're selling to is very important. The market, what is the market looking for in that specific area? So there was a case whereby there was a property in this area and the space wasn't so big. However, for that specific property, whereas the other properties, they were going around 1,000 to 1.2 meters squared, and then this one in particular was going at about 300. The price of the property that's smaller in size was cheaper than the other ones. So does that really mean that it is a discount or not? Because now the market, you find out that the market in that area is specifically looking for properties with a big yard. And now if you are buying this property, yes, you are buying it relatively cheaper than the others. However, you still need to be understanding then when it comes to your exit, how will this affect your business plan? So now it will be very hard for you to sell that property at the price of the bigger stands. So it's very important to actually understand what the client really wants or where the market really is. Then point number 3 is understanding the pricings in that market.
Some call it price counseling, man.
Price counseling. So we really need to understand when we're talking about the market value, when we're talking about the municipal value, when we're talking about the bank value, because ultimately what we really need to do is that we need to be putting our price in a very competitive position. Why am I saying that? Is that as much as you do want value for money, as a property investor, last thing you want is overpricing your property and then it's sitting on the market for 2 years without anybody buying it. So you want to be not the lowest. However, at the same time, you do not want it to be at the highest, because we have been in that situation whereby we did put it slightly at the higher end because we wanted much, right? I mean,
More profit.
tell me we're not the only guys that are thinking about more profits. You also are thinking about profits, man. So what happened then is that we did put it at the higher end. However, what happened is that it's set on the market, only to find out once you decrease it, you find that people are looking for it. Because I'll tell you something right now is that think like a buyer. Lebo, you know that when you were looking for that property, you were looking at all the prices in that area, you understood the prices in that area, and you wanted to get something value for money. So that still applies as you as the seller, that if I'm selling, I need to be thinking as a buyer that if buyers will be searching for properties that are with 4 bedrooms, what are the ranges? Highest, lowest, and where do I put myself in that scale?
So now, with these 3 elements, as Neo did say, whenever you're going to be putting on a price, always speak to your estate agent. So now with estate agents, what I really know about some estate agents is that they would actually put in a price that is on the higher side and rather be negotiated down. So now your approach needs to be counterintuitive, right? Whereby you are putting it just at the right price so that when you do actually counterintuitive. So when you do actually put it at just the right price and people are actually interested in your property, it actually pushes it up. The reason why I'm saying that you need to put it at the right price is because every time when someone uploads something on Property 24, people get notifications based on the price limit that they had actually put. So now if they had actually put in a price limit of 1.2 million and you are putting your property at 1.4 million, this basically means that that person won't get an alert that your property is actually being sold. However, if you're putting your property at 1.1 million and now it's going to notify everybody that's willing to buy properties in that area for 1.2 million, which basically means that you're going to be getting a whole lot of traffic into your property. And traffic is what you want as a property investor or as a property seller. So the last point is get yourself an agent. I know a lot of people will say that, no guys, I don't want to work with agents, I'd rather work alone. So now here's where the thing is. With agents have actually done multiple viewings. They know how to negotiate. They know how the person is and what they are feeling like at what particular point in time. I remember going for a viewing and we were really excited going into that viewing. However, when we were looking around that property, we were not really interested. So now the agent was able to see that these guys aren't really interested anymore because of how the property is actually looking. So now what does this mean? It means that the agent is detached from the property. So now here's where the problem is. If I'm going to be doing my own viewing, I won't be able to see that person, that are they really happy with what they're looking at, right? Because now I would be thinking that I need to get the most out of this property. So every time when you're thinking about selling the property alone, don't do it. Don't do it. Get an agent so that they can actually assist you on selling that property.
Very valid point, Lebo. I mean, what you're saying is that agents have a database. So even with the previous properties that they sold, there might have been they might know a couple of people that are looking for similar properties to yours.
Yes.
So now you can take advantage of that. Even if something does go wrong, agents have lawyers and agents have so many facilities that they can use to protect. Because last thing you want is that you being scammed, or last thing you want is the stress of being negotiated. I can tell the agent that, you know what, I'm selling my property at this price and that's it. And now then the agent will understand that, is this a fair price or not? Imagine you placing your property at a very fair price. However, people are taking advantage because you are the seller. That's something that you don't really want to go through. Let's even look at this further with regards to agent. You shouldn't just get any agent. You should be getting an agent that knows the market. And now if you are taking it open mandate or sole mandate, that's a whole nother discussion, because now when we're looking at a sole mandate, we're looking at only getting one agent. So now how do you go about that as a property investor? It's very important that you put targets and you do follow up with that agent, because last thing you want is your property sitting on the market with a sole mandate. However, there's no traction. We need people coming in the property, especially if we are pricing it right. So what we're saying is that, so whether it's sole mandate or open mandate. So when we're speaking about the open mandate now is when we're having a couple of agents working on selling our property. In that way, we know that if we are having more than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it might seem as if there's a problem with this property. Hence, we do want to sell it really quick. What further creates more problems is that if it's priced differently with 6 agents. I'm sure you've seen this on Property 24. You see so many agents working on one property with different pricings, and then you're asking yourself, what is happening here? So what you want to do is that ultimately when it comes to selling your property, you really want to prepare yourself when it comes to pricing, when it comes to the renovations, when it comes to your market, also when it comes to the estate agent who will be selling. You want to make sure that everything is aligned, everything is watertight, so that you can get your value for money and you can invest like a pro.
Man, if you are actually selling a property and you want an estate agent to actually work with, please do contact us or send us an email down on comments below. We are more than happy to actually help you. No, well?
We come from Durban last week. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
And then on the 1st of October,
we definitely go into Midrand. So if you haven't purchased your ticket yet, trust me, you will be missing out. We will be speaking about the business side when it comes to property investing. We'll be looking at the numbers side when it comes to property investing, because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game.
no, well?
Invest like a pro.